CNBC-TV18.com.
Vedanta's global CEO Kuldeep Kaura shares his views on how India can reap its natural resources dividend in an exclusive conversation with Manisha Gupta. Watch Global Natural Resources Conclave 2018 at this time.
Class, speed, raw power, max torque. Get ready for an unmatched automotive experience. Servo presents Overdrive.
Overdrive, presented by Servo, world-class lubricants from Indian Oil.
Go on a path full of experiences. On a hunt for glory. The all-new BMW X3, on a mission.
The truth is never simple, but dig for truth we must, especially when it comes to our cities and our lives. Join me every week as I thrash out the big urban issues and all the noise surrounding real estate. From traffic nightmares to metro connectivity, from affordable homes to smart cities.
The Urban Reality with Manisha Natarajan. At these times, only on CNBC-TV18.
Gabon is on the fast track to becoming the most favorable investment destination in Africa. The NCOC Special Economic Zone has opened its doors to international investors, providing major tax benefits like 0% tax on dividends, 0% tax on income for the first 10 years, 100% exemptions on corporate and capital gains tax, 100% foreign ownership, and more. Come, invest in the manufacturing sector in Gabon.
It was nearly a decade ago on the battlefields of Afghanistan.
Hey, Roger, we have enemy pinned down here in the south.
A young Army officer named Preston Pish was conducting combat missions, close to 100 of them.
I was out flying missions probably 5 days a week, managing an entire company of attack helicopter pilots.
But even then, something back home had captured his attention.
And the drama continues on Wall Street. Where
3 of the 5 biggest investment banks are gone.
The federal government taking more steps to try and ease this credit crisis.
The financial crisis was big news in 2008, but you are in Afghanistan and you are fighting a war. How does this even make it to your radar?
When you're in Afghanistan, you've got your mission, you're doing all those things, and you're super focused on all those things, and it consumes 14-hour days, but at the same time, you need an outlet.
So you chose the financial crisis?
Yes.
The economy was collapsing, and like so many others, Pish was in a losing battle with his investments, looking for something or someone to help.
I had a really simple idea, and the idea was, who's the best person in the world at investing? How do they do it? And of course, it led me to Warren Buffett. And so I just started reading everything I could get my hands on with Warren Buffett.
And then, Pish came across one of Buffett's most important lessons. Buy stocks for the long haul, not to make a quick buck.
I really think it is not a bad mindset whenever you buy a stock to say, would I be happy buying this stock if the market closed for 5 years? Because then you're buying a business if you say yes to that.
It was like this haze kind of came up, and you're like, hold on, this is really starting to make some sense. And you're looking at it as buying 1 share of stock as owning a business.
It made so much sense, Pish felt compelled to share it.
All right. Great. Sorry for all the delays and the technical issues. I'm a total amateur at this.
I didn't even know what a podcast was. I never listened to one.
He and his friend, Stig Brodersen, began pumping out a weekly show called The Investors Podcast.
Stig, talk to the audience about the deal that Buffett did back whenever he bought some preferred stock in Bank of America.
More than 180 episodes later, Pish himself is considered an authority on Buffett.
Please join me in welcoming Preston Pish.
And this is about value investing.
It's all about owning a business when you buy 1 share. It comes down to personalities.
Now Pish has a following, all his own.
Preston is my mentor now.
It's really important to have great role models, great teachers you can learn from.
Once a year, Pish and his groupies make the trek to Omaha.
Oh, the Preston Pish crowd!
To hear from Buffett firsthand.
I like looking at the details of a business, whether we buy it or not. I mean, I just find it interesting to study the species.
When you're at the meeting, they're unfiltered, they're talking for hours, and you're hearing their thought process. And for me, that's the important part, is to hear how they go about thinking through their decision making, because that's how you can learn from that and try to replicate it.
You have a name tag.
Yeah, I need a name tag.
When Pish began, he focused on Buffett's investment advice, but now finds himself drawn more to Buffett's principles.
We're looking at him as a moral compass. We want to take the exact same approach. I've got to add value to these people's lives by making sure that I'm saying things that are appropriate and that are thoughtful.
It sounds like you feel a real responsibility.
Absolutely, yes, big time.
Buffett, too, feels a responsibility. He knows Pish and countless others are listening.
Well, we've been around a long time, so we're known, and we do have a decent record over time. And I think people can tell when you're saying what you believe versus talking points.
100 years from now, Warren and Charlie, what would each of you like to be remembered for?
Old age. If you really ask me, I'd probably like teacher. I enjoy teaching a lot.
He's the one guy I have been following since I was in my 20s and watching exactly what he does.
Buffett's students are everywhere. And for years, Gail Perry Mason has counted herself among them. Today, she's a senior director at a major investment firm. But in her early 20s, she was a single mom, working as a secretary in Detroit, trying to break into the financial world.
They said, well, Gail, maybe we'll let you be a broker for like 90 days. If it doesn't make it, you go back to be a licensed secretary.
But that's crazy. You were there, you were willing to learn, and they weren't going to give you the opportunity?
They didn't have a lot of people in the business at that time that were single mothers and was African American, and there was still not a lot of African Americans in the financial industry.
It wasn't long before Gail was thriving, but she could also see that her city was under economic siege.
What do you spend most of your money on? Somebody tell me. Really what I wanted to do was teach people in Detroit, teach women, teach African Americans, teach minorities about investing.
And then she got an idea after reading about a summer program for children of the 1%.
Rich Kids Camp is a camp that they charge $10,000 for the child to come.
What?
Yes, $10,000. So I knew I couldn't afford it for my own children, and I knew a lot of the kids in Detroit could not afford a camp like this. So I decided I'm gonna do it myself. But I would charge $75 and we would put $50 in a bank account. I want everybody in here to have more opportunities. And that's what Warren Buffett wants you to have too.
She signed up 35 kids ages 8 to 18 for a camp that she called Money Matters for Youth. 2 decades later, the program is bursting with 200 campers and a wait list. Local sponsors help offset the cost.
Did you guys even know what a stock was when you showed up at this camp?
No, not really.
No.
Did they even care? How many kids want to spend a week of their summer studying finance?
The first day I can remember coming in and I didn't know there was a uniform, so I was like, oh, it's a uniform to this camp. But after I got to learn and take away from things, I was like, I love it.
That was 8 years ago. Claire Jones has been coming back almost every summer since.
This camp really does teach you things like etiquette and the financial market, which I know I don't get taught in school, so I think it's a great experience.
What have you learned so far that you will take with you? Like budget. So they start with budgeting, they start with every day, how to manage your allowance. You know, how to work and get an allowance and take that money and save the money.
And every year, they study one of Gail's heroes.
Who is this guy here?
Warren Buffett.
All right.
I read about him that he graduated from college at 20 years old with over $10,000.
He started investing at a very young age, and now he's one of the richest persons in the world.
She encourages her campers to act like Buffett from his daily routine.
He reads 6 hours a day.
And charitable giving.
So that he gave 99% of his money away.
To starting his first job as a kid. CJ Watson is just 10 years old.
What's your business?
It's
called CJ Janitorial Service. I clean this 3-story building. It's at my mom's job.
How much money do you make for doing that?
$20 an hour.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
His friend, Robert Herndon, has a volunteer gig at a local radio station.
Good morning.
Hi, Angie.
But that doesn't mean he's not making a few bucks.
I save a lot of my money.
Anybody ever need to borrow money from you?
My mom sometimes doesn't have the money on her, so she just asks me instead of going all the way to the bank and back. But sometimes I'll have a fee of interest.
You charge your mom interest?
Yeah.
How much interest do you charge her?
Sometimes 20.
Sounds like a mogul in the making. All it takes is a little teaching and time.
Always look at the framing of the shot.
Kids are like Kodak film. They need exposure and development. I use money as a tool. They take this tool and they learn how to give back. They learn life skills. They're exposed to different things. This is a camp of opportunity. Everybody in here could be a billionaire. Every single person.
And perhaps her favorite lesson.
The main thing I learned and studied from Warren Buffett is not about the stocks he picks. The more money he makes, the more money he gives.
Later, Gail surprises her campers with the field trip of a lifetime. But first, our own trip, back to the beginning.
I was obnoxious, and teachers did not want me in their class.
Gabon is on the fast track to becoming the most favorable investment destination in Africa. The NCOC Special Economic Zone has opened its doors to international investors, providing major tax benefits like 0% tax on dividends, 0% tax on income for the first 10 years, 100% exemptions on corporate and capital gains tax, 100% foreign ownership, and more. Come, invest in the manufacturing sector in Gabon.
I was on a train in Mongolia.
That's how we met.
May your life be full of stories. The plush new XUV 500.
I want to buy a 1 BHK flat by the end of this year, but I don't know if it's the right time.
Do I need a real estate agent or can I buy the property directly?
Do I need insurance for my new home? I mean, is it really required?
Under construction properties are much cheaper than the ready-to-move-in ones, but you never know about these possession delays. So what should I choose?
I want to build my first home in my village. How is a land loan different from a home loan?
Need help in buying your first home? We'll help you make the right choice.
Today, demand and supply is the only important parameter that is driving any micro market in terms of appreciation.
We will help you take the best bets with your property buys based on location and supply ratings for key markets across India.
Send your queries to home@nw18.com. First-time home buyer, your search for the perfect first home ends here. At these times. Only on CNBC-TV18.
First-time home buyer, powered by LIC Housing Finance Limited. Building homes, nurturing relationships.
I'm coming to you from the SAP India headquarters. We are here to talk to Devdeep Sengupta about what exactly lies ahead for SAP and the India growth story. He is, of course, the MD of the company. Lots to talk about.
Hi, I'm Devdeep Sengupta. Catch me on CNBC-TV18 Weekender to know about Digital for Inclusive Growth impact of artificial intelligence on agriculture, and grow with SAP.
Gabon is on the fast track to becoming the most favorable investment destination in Africa. The NCOC Special Economic Zone has opened its doors to international investors, providing major tax benefits like 0% tax on dividends, 0% tax on income for the first 10 years, 100% exemptions on corporate and capital gains tax, 100% foreign ownership, and more. Come, invest in the manufacturing sector in Gabon.
Airfield in Omaha, it's one of the busiest days of the year. But it's not Thanksgiving or anywhere near Christmas. No, the busiest time at this airport comes in early May, when thousands of Berkshire Hathaway shareholders come to town.
All right, so it's Monday after Berkshire weekend.
Yeah.
How are you feeling right now?
Shot! Shot! I'm just completely wasted.
Jim Ross isn't complaining. He manages the Hudson Booksellers store at Epley, and he couldn't be happier.
What happens at the bookstore?
It's our biggest time of the year. The day after the Berkshire Hathaway shareholders meeting. Every year, it's a huge day.
So this is your Thanksgiving, your Christmas, your Super Bowl.
All rolled into one, yes, yes. Yes, it is.
Hi, nice to meet you.
The authors camped outside Ross's store are happy too. Their books are all about Warren Buffett, and they can sell hundreds over the meeting weekend.
If there were more people in the United States that were like Warren Buffett, we'd be a better country.
Oh, sure.
Writing about Buffett is an industry unto itself.
Ground rules, Warren Buffett Wealth, Buffett, the Making of an American Capitalist.
There are more than 75 books in print, with more than 2 million copies sold worldwide about him.
Oh, here's Warren Buffett Way. This is the newest edition.
His business partner, Charlie Munger.
Seeking Wisdom from Darwin to Munger.
Or Berkshire Hathaway's strategy of value investing.
Investing between the lines. It's about candor in operating a publicly traded company.
At Hudson Booksellers, Ross does about 20% of his yearly business in just 3 days over the shareholders' weekend.
Over here, we have kind of a whole array of books over all the years, Buffett and Munger related titles.
And it's not just books about them. Devoted fans also snap up whatever Buffett and Munger are reading.
Shoe Dog is a book that Warren recommended to everybody this year.
That started 20 years ago at the 1998 meeting with an audience question.
And I'm wondering if you could help me with my summer reading list.
Charlie? Yeah. I have recently read a new book twice, which I very seldom do. And that book is Guns, Germs, and Steel by Jared Diamond. He's got a mind that is always asking why, why?
That Sunday, as the crowds were leaving Omaha, Ross was swamped with hundreds of requests.
You know, we'd have 300 people wanting that particular title. You keep 4 on hand. And they would say it was Mr. Munger who had recommended it.
A light bulb went off in his head.
I went to Mr. Buffett and I said, you know, 2 years in a row now, I'm getting slammed and we don't have the product on hand. Tell you what, you give us a heads up. You tell us what you guys are reading, what you're going to recommend at the meeting, and we'll stock it. And his first reaction to me was, what if no one asks? And I said, fat chance. Yeah. He said, all right. He said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you Charlie's number.
Now, Ross calls Munger 3 months before every annual meeting to find out what books they'll be recommending, and then stocks up.
This is probably the most definitive volume out on Mr. Buffett's life of permanent value. It is, I don't know how many pages. Now, we have to carry it because I'm in it.
He's in it for good reason. Jim Ross has known Warren Buffett all his life.
I grew up with his children. I grew up with Susie and Howie and Peter. We all went to public schools. We went to Dundee and Lewis and Clark and Central High. So I've known them a good many years.
It never seemed like he was kind of up on a pedestal. He was just your friend's dad.
Yes. Yeah. No, he always was. He was very much a regular guy, and he still is today. You know, he pumps his own gas, he drives his own car, you see him out to dinner, I see him when he votes. I mean, yeah, he's just a regular guy.
If there's anyone who understands Buffett's connection to Omaha, it's Jim Ross. We asked him to show us around his hometown.
There straight ahead is the Keywood Plaza, and that is where Berkshire Hathaway runs their empire. I can remember, quite frankly, as a kid, we used to play poker with Howie, and his dad would come down in the middle of the night in a bathrobe. In those days, he drank Pepsi, and Howie used to call him Pepsi Warren. All the kids were raised not in any sense of privilege at all. I can remember Howie arguing with his mother over his $5 a week allowance. This is the house that Charlie Munger grew up in here in Omaha. His dad was a very prominent attorney, and there were a number of judges in the family and several generations that went to Harvard. And right up the hill is the Warren Buffett residence that he's lived in since the late 50s.
Ross still lives right down the street.
You know, they lived in New York for a while. And at one point, Warren said, I don't have to do this here. I don't have to live in New York City. I can go back to my hometown. And in the 1950s, long before people realized what could be done on a computer, he was doing it, you know, with a phone, and moved back to Omaha. He wanted to raise his family in a small town environment. And he said, you know, I can thoughtfully make decisions in little old Omaha. And the rest, as they say, is history.
But that history isn't tied just to Omaha. There's another place that helped shape Warren Buffett.
What did you think of Washington?
Well, it wasn't so much what I thought of Washington. I hated leaving Omaha.
In his teen years, Buffett lived here after his father was elected to Congress.
Now, there's the Marlin. This whole thing over here is the Westchester. Now, there's Albany Tower.
This is where he started to form his thoughts about business and life, but not before making a few mistakes.
I was rebellious at first in school for about a year. I made a real pain of myself, but then I calmed down after a while.
Buffett says his adjustment to D.C. was rocky, and he often acted out.
That's the Sears there.
Right here?
Yeah.
Even shoplifting at the old downtown Sears.
I wasn't doing it for any reason except rebelling, and that ran out after a while.
Yeah. Our first stop was his boyhood home.
That lawn seemed so big when I was mowing it or digging weeds, and now it's nothing.
When's the last time you saw this house?
Well, I may have driven by it 30 years ago or so, but I haven't been in it since 1952. Mrs. Wilcox? Hi, I'm Warren Buffett. It's a real pleasure meeting you. How long have you lived here, Mrs. Wilcox?
32 years.
32 years.
Yeah.
Oh, did you know he had lived here before?
Of course.
Yeah. See my spacious room. I used to store my money there. I might find some that I left.
Does the room look like you remembered?
Yeah, it looks a little smaller, but not a lot smaller.
Thank you so much.
Mrs. Wilcox, thank you.
At one point, Buffett and two friends even ran away from home, something he laughs about now.
We got out to Wisconsin Avenue, and we started hitchhiking. And 3 kids hitchhiking was not the easiest thing to do. And the first guy that picked us up was a real nut. And we all got in the car, and we said to him, "Where are you going?" And he said, "I'm going to hell. Do you want to come along?" And we immediately decided that this was not exactly what we'd expected. So he said that a few more times, and we told him we'd reached our destination and got out. Well, eventually we got to Hershey, Pennsylvania.
That's a long way.
It's quite a ways, yeah. We worked our way back to Washington. And my mother's first comment was, "How come you came back so soon?"
Next, around the corner to his junior high school.
But of course, I made my friends from Washington here.
Right.
You know.
And then Wilson Senior High and a very surprised principal.
Hi, it's a real pleasure. Yeah.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Yeah, we're just here for the first time in 60 years.
Really? Been that long?
It's been that long, yeah.
Well, it's changed a little bit since you've been here.
Yeah, you don't look as scary to me as Mr. Nelson looks.
Back then, nobody was asking him for pictures.
Sure.
But today, Buffett seems happy to oblige.
Here we go. Use this with your banker. Let me be giving her a stock tip. Be grabbing my billfold.
We're going to show something.
Eventually, Buffett found his footing here, and his high school yearbook called it right, future stockbroker.
Before I came to Washington, I had about $120, and when I left, I had about $10,000.
Coming up, a giant on the field, a giant in his field, and a pregame surprise.
And all of a sudden you hear that Warren Buffett wants to meet you.
I was actually in the locker room getting ready to play against Oklahoma, one of our big rivals, and I was like, of course I'd love to meet him.
Gabon is on the fast track to becoming the most favorable investment destination in Africa. The NCOC Special Economic Zone has opened its doors to international investors, providing major tax benefits like 0% tax on dividends, 0% tax on income for the first 10 years, 100% exemptions on corporate and capital gains tax, 100% foreign ownership, and more. Come, invest in the manufacturing sector in Gabon.
Introducing Ford Freestyle, जोशीले इंजन के साथ। उनके लिए जो जीते हैं दिल से। Ford Freestyle, जोश है दिल में। Ford, कुछ अलग सी family वाली feeling.
Vedanta's global CEO Kuldeep Kaura shares his views on how India can reap its natural resources dividend in an exclusive conversation with Manisha Gupta. Watch Global Natural Resources Conclave 2018 at this time.
Class, speed, raw power, max torque. Get ready for an unmatched automotive experience. Servo presents Overdrive.
Overdrive, presented by Servo, world-class lubricants from Indian Oil.
The truth is never simple, but dig for truth we must, especially when it comes to our cities and our lives. Join me every week as I thrash out the big urban issues and all the noise surrounding real estate. From traffic nightmares to metro connectivity, from affordable homes to smart cities.
The Urban Reality with Manisha Natarajan. At these times, only on CNBC-TV18.
Gabon is on the fast track to becoming the most favorable investment destination in Africa. The NCOC Special Economic Zone has opened its doors to international investors, providing major tax benefits like 0% tax on dividends, 0% tax on income for the first 10 years, 100% exemptions on corporate and capital gains tax, 100% foreign ownership, and more. Come, invest in the manufacturing sector in Gabon.
That. Look at that. There we are, everybody.
Walking the floor at last year's Berkshire Hathaway meeting, we noticed someone stopping traffic at the corner of Justin Boots and Fruit of the Loom Drive.
Mr. Nebraska football.
If you don't recognize the guy in the check jacket and tie, it's because he's not wearing his work clothes. He's Ndamukong Suh, NFL superstar, one of the highest paid defensive players in the league, and right at home alongside Warren Buffett.
I loved the Wall Street Journal story last year that called you a secret finance nerd. Let's talk a little bit about that, because
this guy's smart.
You're not somebody who is just a football player. You are known on field for your very aggressive tackles and where you go after people. But let's talk about the finance side of things. How'd you get interested?
I've always loved numbers, so I like to be involved and understand what's going on, and not just a person that just always wants to take great advice, which I've been lucky enough to know somebody who can give me some great advice. So understanding my investments, understanding how to be sustainable, and understand how I can progress my family to the future is going to be huge.
They first met 9 years ago. Suh was still in college, getting ready for a big game.
A quick introduction.
He told me about it when we talked one-on-one.
It's 2009. You're at the University of Nebraska. You are this guy who is not only an awesome football player, but also focused on business. And all of a sudden you hear that Warren Buffett wants to meet you. What do you think?
I was super surprised. I was actually in the locker room and getting ready to play against Oklahoma, one of our big rivals, and I was like, of course I'd love to meet him. Got to speak and then went off and won the game.
It's true, it was an Oklahoma game, and I was an honorary coach for one quarter, and I built up a commanding 7-0 lead, and Dominican held it for me.
What happened? What was the next step?
A good friend of mine challenged me to look for a meeting and ask for a meeting to sit down with him.
Sue, who was getting a degree in construction management, reached out. To his surprise, Buffett reached back.
I was probably 2 hours early before the meetings. A little nervous, to say the least. It was like speaking to my father. Just easy conversation, easy going. We actually sat there for 3-4 hours.
What was your game plan walking into that meeting? What did you want to talk to him about?
I just wanted to get into his philosophy and really ask him for a mentorship, have something that was ongoing.
You ready? I'm ready. Okay.
The rookie and the veteran hit it off.
Okay.
And have been friends ever since. Sue recently signed a 1-year, $14 million deal with the Los Angeles Rams.
Glad Indomitian's finally in.
Adding to the tens of millions he's already made over his pro career.
I always play with a chip on my shoulder, and that's really kind of my focus.
Warren, it seems to me that athletes, movie stars, people who are newly into money like this probably have a lot of people who are going after them, trying to prey on that money and find ways of telling it. What advice have you given them?
That always happens, and then there's some smart guys like Indomitian that recognize that.
With some guidance from Buffett, Sue has invested in real estate, restaurants, and tech, including the maker of a smart coffee mug.
You are in an extremely rare position, somebody who's already thought all this through while you were still so young in your career. That's not the case for all pro athletes. What lesson should we take out of that?
Don't be complacent. When you look at people who have created great wealth, and even Warren Buffett himself, he's made majority of his money after he was 50. And we're so young. I think that's where guys got to understand you're afforded a great opportunity, but it also takes great responsibility.
An NFL star thinking beyond the game. A young couple starting out. A camp full of kids with big dreams. Buffett's influence can be found in unexpected ways, in unexpected places. Even here.
All right, so let's read this. You ready?
At a suburban home in Alabama, it's story time.
Once upon a time, there was a tortoise named Buffett. We're going to call him Warren Buffett.
But this isn't Dr. Seuss.
He knew the way to win was by saving his money. Is that what was good or bad?
Good.
That's right.
Seem a little strange? Not to Ron Holt. Buffett's fans may have turned him into an icon, but few have lived out that devotion like Holt has.
To me, every single word I ever read about Warren Buffett from day one made sense, and I never questioned it, and I still don't to this day, and it's led me to where I am today. All right, so there's actually a proper way to enter the home.
Next, a man who's cleaning up because of you-know-who.
Gabon is on the fast track to becoming the most favorable investment destination in Africa. The NCOC Special Economic Zone has opened its doors to international investors, providing major tax benefits like 0% tax on dividends, 0% tax on income for the first 10 years, 100% exemptions on corporate and capital gains tax, 100% foreign ownership, and more. Come, invest in the manufacturing sector in Gabon.
I was on a train in Mongolia.
That's how we met.
May your life be full of stories. The plush new XUV 500.
Global Natural Resources Conclave 2018, May 28th and 29th, New Delhi.
From identifying the movers and shakers of the week to spotting new trends as they develop, we get you all the buzz in the commodity market and help you connect commodity to the company. Let the biggest champions guide your investments and find out on what to expect in the week ahead.
The Commodity Champions. At these times, only on CNBC-TV18.
Commodity Champions, brought to you by Nakshatra Diamond Jewelry.
I appreciate that. When you get to be 87, people stand and applaud at the start because they're not sure whether you're going to be around at the end.
There was a time, as a young man, when Warren Buffett was afraid to speak in public. Well, not anymore.
And it's very important to surround yourself with people who are better than you are. You are going to move in the direction of the people you associate with.
Today, he loves to talk, and they hang on his every word.
I'm cheering for you, and I can tell you the best is yet to come. Thank you.
Some people follow rock stars, others, Warren Buffett.
Get it?
Oh, yeah. Put your heel onto Mr. Buffett.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, your #1 idol. Yeah, he is.
But few are quite as devoted as Ron Holt.
Once upon a time, there was a tortoise named Buffett.
His faith is so complete, it touches almost every aspect of his life.
What are we going to learn today, you think?
About how to make money.
Yep. Is it better to save it?
Yes.
Yeah, because when you save, what happens?
You get more.
That's right.
But his story begins with a different book.
This book here, this is The Making of an American Capitalist. It's the exact book I purchased in 1998.
Holt was 24 and working in a chemistry lab. He wanted to start investing and hoped that the book would help him understand the stock market.
I didn't really look at it as life-changing at the time, but now when I look back on that moment, it was the first day of the rest of my life.
He started studying Buffett and using the billionaire's life as a blueprint for his own, beginning with the concept of saving early.
Any money you save before you get out and start having a family is probably worth, any dollar is probably worth $10 later on, simply because you can save it.
I didn't go out, I didn't have dinner dates, I didn't do the things that would cost me money. The second thing I did was I had these crazy part-time jobs. I worked almost every industry you could think of.
He worked days, nights, and weekends for more than 6 years, enough to save $150,000 to buy, of all things, a cleaning service that he named 2 Maids and a Mop.
Do you do a lot of cleaning now?
Today, not so much. In the early days, absolutely. That was something I had to do to survive. One thing Warren Buffett taught me was the fact that sexy businesses have a ton of competition.
There's very little in the way of competition. Competition. I always prefer no competition.
I wanted to own a business that was unsexy as it got.
You know, it still strikes me as somebody who went to school and got this degree in chemistry, like a crazy thing to jump off that track and decide I'm going to go start a cleaning service.
Well, I'll tell you, no one supported me back in those days. Family members thought I was a bit crazy. Maybe it was because I was so young and dumb and thought I was going to become the next Warren Buffett Jr. I never thought that I was going to fail. As unglamorous as this job is, it's still something that a lot of people need.
By following Buffett's lead and staying frugal, his company turned a profit in its 2nd year. And then he went after the big money, franchising.
So this is our current footprint of our franchise owners throughout the country. You'll see.
The business, headquartered in Birmingham, Alabama, boasts more than 60 franchises and 500 employees.
2 Maids and a Mop, White Plains.
Holt says that in 2017, the company soaked up over $13 million in sales.
17 new franchises are now a part of the 2 Maids and a Mop family.
When did you feel like you had made it?
I can still remember this moment. I was driving through Tampa, Florida. And I said, oh my gosh, we're in a foreign city and 2 Maids and a Mop is here. We're a real brand now.
A real brand built on the gospel of Buffett.
Ron really preaches that to all of us franchisees, that we really need to be frugal with our money.
We're not fancy, we just do it well, we do it at a fair price, and we make money.
While he's never met Warren Buffett, Holt feels indebted to him and has tried to show his gratitude. Really tried.
I desperately wanted just to say thank you for changing my life, Mr. Buffett, and I called his secretary over and over and over again. They knew me by a first-name basis, and they finally said, got to give it up. I finally gave up and kind of accepted the fact that we may never actually meet, but for me, everything that I've learned from him and everything that I put forth every day in my business and in my personal life even is enough reward for me.
When we come back, headed to Omaha, and the kids from Detroit are all smiles.
What's the funniest reaction you got from any of the kids?
When I would say, no, Pop, on the bus going there, Warren Buffett has cherry Coke. You know, like, why can't we? Follow the recipe of success, not the recipe of his diet.
I'm coming to you from the SAP India headquarters. We are here to talk to Devdeep Sengupta about what exactly lies ahead for SAP and the India growth story. He is, of course, the MD of the company. Lots to talk about.
Hi, I'm Devdeep Sengupta. Catch me on CNBC-TV18 Weekender to know about digital for inclusive growth, impact of artificial intelligence on agriculture, and grow with SAP.
Class, speed, raw power, max torque. Get ready for an unmatched automotive experience. Servo presents Overdrive.
Overdrive, presented by Servo, world-class lubricants from Indian Oil.
Gabon is on the fast track to becoming the most favorable investment destination in Africa. The NCOC Special Economic Zone has opened its doors to international investors, providing major tax benefits like 0% tax on dividends, 0% tax on income for the first 10 years, 100% exemptions on corporate and capital gains tax, 100% foreign ownership, and more. Come, invest in the manufacturing sector in Gabon.
Can somebody tell me what companies does Berkshire Hathaway own?
Gail Perry Mason is a successful investment manager and summer camp founder.
I want to be a Warren Buffett in the making because I want to achieve my goals.
For more than 20 years, she's been teaching the Book of Buffett to kids in Detroit.
10-10-80 rule, right? Yes, give 10%, save 10%, and live off 80%.
So you can imagine her excitement when she finally came face to face with her idol at a pro football game.
Oh my God, there's Warren Buffett. And I was like, can I talk to you for a moment? And he's like, sure, why not?
She immediately thought of her campers.
I said, let me tell you about my babies. And he said, your babies, how many do you have? And I said, well, I got thousands of them in Detroit. And he says, do you? And I said, yes, I love teaching financial literacy. We always learn about you every year, and we all admire you. So then he ended up saying, why don't you bring him to the shareholders meeting?
An invitation for 28 kids. From Buffett himself? The young investors must have been thrilled, right?
Most of the time when I go to speeches like that, all they do is just talk. When I thought of Warren Buffett, I thought of an old guy who was just blabbering about stock and stuff.
And for the privilege of listening to all that blabbering, these kids would have to travel.
Getting to Omaha for the Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting is not cheap. How did you guys go about raising the money for it?
I started just calling people. Can you help me with this? So number one, we had a fundraiser, and then we asked for a few sponsors.
Then something amazing happened when Gail entered a drawing at a local charity event.
So they have this grand prize of $25,000 ticket to Europe. So I won.
You kidding me?
I won. I said, I want these tickets to go to Omaha, Nebraska. And they said, you want to use this for Omaha, Nebraska?
Instead of Europe.
Instead of Europe? I said, yes.
And when they reached Omaha, the kids soon found out that Mr. Buffett and Mr. Munger were...
I've had breakfast with Warren when he has Coca-Colas and nuts.
Not what they had expected.
And pretty damn good, too. If you keep doing that, Warren, you may not make 100.
Well,
Warren Buffett actually did comedy and it made us laugh, and I started getting into it and started listening to his mistakes and whatnot.
You guys make you feel good to know that other guys like that make mistakes too?
Yeah, just know that we're not the only persons or people who make it.
Even amazing people who have made billions of dollars, they still make mistakes like every other human being in the world.
Exactly.
Warren Buffett gave all of these youth an opportunity. Maybe, you know, we weren't like sitting up front at the shareholders meeting. We didn't need to. We needed an opportunity to get in the door with all the other shareholders.
Even though there's like thousands of people here, you don't see a lot of kids, you don't see a lot of people of color, you don't see a lot of people who look like us, and this is just an amazing experience for us to have.
While they didn't get to meet the man himself, Joshua Hines and several others returned home so inspired, they started investing.
I'm actually in the process of getting a stock next week.
Which one?
The Berkshire Hathaway stock.
Class B, right?
Yes.
Hi.
Warren Buffett has spent a lifetime talking about success, and these kids are all ears.
And I just learned that patience is really slow and steady wins the race.
You have to remain true to yourself and humble, and you have to remain patient.
Anybody want to go back?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
An unlikely connection between an 87-year-old man and a group of school kids. The next generation to follow Warren Buffett.
Anything your students do to invest in their mind and body, it pays off in an extraordinary way. Your best asset is your own self. And you can become, to an enormous degree, the person you want to be.
I want to buy a 1 BHK flat by the end of this year, but I don't know if it's the right time.
Do I need a real estate agent, or can I buy the property directly?
Do I need insurance for my new home? I mean, is it really required?
Under construction properties are much cheaper than the ready-to-move-in ones, but you never know about these possession delays. So what should I choose?
I want to build my first home in my village. How is a land loan different from a home loan?
Need help in buying your first home? We'll help you make the right choice.
Today, demand and supply is the only important parameter that is driving any micro market in terms of appreciation.
We will help you take the best bets with your property buys based on location and supply ratings for key markets across India.
Send your queries to home@nw18.com. First-time home buyer, your search for the perfect first home ends here. At these times, only on CNBC-TV18.
First-time home buyer, powered by LIC Housing Finance Limited. Building homes, nurturing relationships.
The stage is set for another Congress-BJP face-off before the big finale in 2019. As political leaders face the litmus test, who holds the key to the future of India's Silicon Valley? Tune in as CNBC-TV18 travels across the length and breadth of Karnataka to decode the economic and political equations of the Karnataka Assembly elections. Election Exchange, Battle for Karnataka. Throughout this month on CNBC-TV18 and CNBC-TV18.com.
I'm coming to you from the SAP India headquarters. We are here to talk to Devdeep Sen Gupta about what exactly lies ahead for SAP and the India growth story. He is, of course, the MD of the company. Lots to talk about.
Hi, I'm Devdeep Sen Gupta. Catch me on CNBC-TV18 Weekender to know about digital for inclusive growth, impact of artificial intelligence on agriculture, and grow with SAP.
This is TV18 and you're watching CNBC-TV18.
When a historic site like the Red Fort is given to a private corporation for maintaining its tourism infrastructure by the government, is bound to whip up strong emotions. Red Fort is, after all, the monument from the ramparts of which every Prime Minister since independence has addressed the nation. When a monument of such significance is handed over to a private company, in this case the Dalmia Bharat Group, whose business portfolio includes cement, sugar, power manufacturing, questions are going to follow. So welcome to Urban Reality, and we are asking a very basic question. Has this step been taken by the government with enough care, enough safeguards and enough transparency to ensure that the most coveted of our national monuments go to the most deserving? Joining me are Sohail Hashmi, heritage enthusiast who conducts heritage walks for Delhi, Muhammad Khan of the Indian National Congress, and Tasneem Zakaria Mehta, managing trustee of the Dr. Bhavdaji Lal Mumbai City Museum, former vice chairman of INTAC, who has worked on 2 Mumbai heritage sites. We will also, in the course of the show, play out the views of the tourism minister, KJ Alphonse, who has defended this step quite vociferously. Mr. Hashmi, you presented very strong arguments from the day this was announced to the day the government has now made the MOU with the Dalmia Bharat Group public. Has anything changed? Have your views changed now that you've gone through the MOU?
Well, I think my criticism has become even more stronger.
Really?
After going through the MOU.
Okay. Why so?
And, well, one thing is the MOU says that whatever agency, the corporate that takes up the maintenance of the structure will prepare a vision document. Now, going by the only one example that we have is the Dalmias, I have absolutely no idea what kind of vision document will they prepare, because the MOU doesn't say that it has to be done with historians, with conservationists, with involving archaeologists. It is the concessionaire that is going to be given the right to prepare the vision document.
So is your concern the fact that they don't have the experience?
That is one. That is just one of the things. Further, it says that there are going to be landscaping, there is going to be, and what kind, if you touch anything which is preserved by the Archaeological Survey of India, there is a law. Within 100 meters, you cannot do anything.
Okay.
Now, if modifications have to be done to the lawns, say inside the Red Fort or outside, it cannot be done without involving the Archaeological Survey of India. There is no mention in the MOU. Who's going to do it?
Okay, so it's not part of the MOU, which is the other big concern.
Yeah.
All right. So discomfort has not gone. You believe all is not kosher. Do you believe that? I mean, I was surprised actually with the kind of reactions which poured from the Indian National Congress teams, though under the previous regime as well, I would just say previous regime as well, Ambika Soniji tried herself to bring in the Tata Trust for the restoration of Taj. In fact, there they were meant to restore. Here is only the infrastructure around the monument. So why is there so much angst against this move?
Well, the clumsy and lazy manner, Manisha ji, in which it has been executed shows a complete lack of original thinking. You've just taken a project, you've given it to, I don't even know if this is the highest bidder, because the entire process has been mired in opacity. We don't know how this was decided.
Okay.
Public monuments belong to you and me. They belong to all of us. And did you and I have a say in this? No, we didn't. We were told one day it's being given to the Dalmia Group. That's not good. That's bad. We have nothing against...
The policy has been up on the tourism ministry side, adopt a heritage. Since September 2017 with all the details.
That's fine.
That also mentioned that there will not be any financial bidding. It will only be a vision bid. How is it that, this is my only quibble with the opposition, sir. Why is it that you did not go through the pages at that point of time and point out to it then saying why not financial bidding, why only a vision bid?
I'll explain. First of all, we are not in favor essentially of a financial bidding either. These are public monuments.
Okay.
The problem that the Congress has is that you've arrived at this without evaluating or putting forth any criteria. This vision document you speak of was a tertiary set of terms which really didn't make sense at that point. You would assume that the government would evolve more, and then suddenly the government took this decision. You and I heard about it the very first time when they announced the Dalmia Group. Let me point out, the Congress has absolutely nothing against the Dalmia Group. But what we are saying is, when you're bringing in a private player, you're not some Maharaja who's giving his property to a hotel developer to develop and run. This, as I began by saying, belongs to the nation. you have to make sure that the terms and conditions are
So your
satisfactory
quibble
to all
is over
stakeholders.
the transparency and the methodology followed.
Yes,
is that it?
The
Okay.
third thing would be that the third thing would be essentially how much of it do you yield to a private player? Let's look at the Aga Khan project. Would you like us to talk about that now or later?
We'll talk about it later.
Okay, so I want to talk about the distinction between
We do
that
have
and
Mr. Alphonse's views, who
That
says
is
that not much has been yielded. But Tasneem Mehta, there are supporters of this move who have said that what is wrong in corporates adopting monuments? It's a well-accepted global practice. Italy does it with some of its most awesome sites like the Colosseum. So, do you buy the arguments that you've just heard, that there's not enough diligence which has been done perhaps, there's not enough transparency, and therein lies the quibble?
I think firstly I'd like to say that it's very important that the government has taken this step, because we do need to engage the larger community. We need to engage corporates, we need to engage experts. So it's important not to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I think the intention of the government is good, and we need to look at perhaps tweaking the policy. I don't think a wholesale criticism and saying, who are these corporates? The corporates are not going to execute the project. Obviously, they are going to bring in experts. Obviously, they're going to bring in architects, people with exposure, people who understand how to prepare management plans, etc. I think the angst in the conservation and professional community, the conservationists, the historians, etc., is basically because they have not really been included in defining this policy. So if you look at the committees that the government has created, the Director of Travel and Trade chairs a committee. Another committee is chaired by another travel and tourism person. And there is no conservation or historian expert on the committee. So these are lacunas, there's no question. But that doesn't mean that the policy itself is wrong, as Mr. Hashmi is trying to suggest, that the Dalmia Group, who is in cement, etc. So what if they're in cement, etc.? They have access to resources, to expertise. Right. And the important thing is to look at our sites today. They are in the most abysmal state.
Well, let's bring in the views of the Minister of Tourism, KJ Alphonse, who's currently sitting right at the center of our very polarized debate. Should the Red Fort have been given for management and upkeep to a private company like the Dalmia Bharat Group? I started by asking him whether he thinks the process of finding a heritage mitra for Red Fort was a transparent one under the Adopt a Heritage program.
See, number one, we have not given the Red Fort to Dalmia. It's very, very clear. If you look at the MOU, what does the Dalmia get? It's very clearly laid out. Dalmia does not enter the monument at all. So the question of giving the Red Fort to Dalmias doesn't arise. So what we have done is, as per the MOU, there are certain things which will be permitted to be done by the monument mitra. In this case, Dalmias. See, they will clean the area. They ensure that the area is completely spotless. Number two, they will provide drinking water, they will provide toilets, they will provide Wi-Fi, they will provide seating arrangements, maybe a light and sound show. So these are some of the things, and these are very, very clearly spelled out in the MOU, which is in the public domain, and it's available. And anything that is done, even whatever I have told you just now, these things can be done only with the permission of the ASI. I mean, each of these cases, they will sit down with the ASI and work out what are the modalities. And secondly, regarding transparency, it's very simple. We put out the entire list of documents, monuments to be adopted on our site. And it's a continuous process. We don't even invite applications. People keep on applying. And if there are 5 people who have applied, we call all of them, we tell them, you make your vision document regarding the monument, and then you come back and make a presentation to us. And whoever makes the best presentation, and mind you, this is done before a committee comprising of, co-chaired by the Secretary Tourism and Secretary Culture, in which the DG of ASI and the whole lot of senior officials there, and make a presentation on the vision document, and whoever makes the best presentation gets the monument for whatever purposes for which we have said it will be allowed to be.
Mr. Alphonse, the website says, and I quote, proposals will be evaluated based on past initiatives, financial soundness, past CSR ratings, and a detailed vision bid along with various terms and conditions. Evaluation committee, and this one is important, sir, and I want to know from you, reserves the right to accept or reject any or all proposals without assigning any reasons. no bidder will have any cause of action or claim against the committee for rejection of their proposal. So do you think that the transparency is enough in this case?
See, now you see, suppose there are 5 people making a presentation. I can't be going through every comma and full stop and say that this company's presentation, this word is better, this concept is better. No, this ministry is involved with a million things. Okay, we are involved with bringing tourists to India. Our top priority is not to look into each comma and full stop.
May I ask how many bids were actually received for this iconic Red Fort management, sir?
I really wouldn't know the exact numbers because we are now invited applications from people for 95 monuments. So I won't know exact numbers, nor am I involved with the selection process at all. I have absolutely no role in this at all. This is a high-powered committee. See, this ministry, in this ministry, the ministry or the minister or no political executive takes a decision on this kind of issues. It is left to the committee which is being constituted to take a decision.
Okay, then let me ask you that the website also specifies that corporates only need to submit a vision document and not a financial bid, which you've also said. But that also raises a question, sir. How do you arrive with the right number of the financial bid? Is 25 crores enough over 5 years? Is it a good number or not?
No, see, it's not, money is not the most important factor in this at all. Of course, we should have people who are adopting the monument willing to spend money from the CSR fund. They should be willing to, which the government has allowed them to spend. But the whole point is, this is not a bid at all. There is no financial bid. That is just part of the whole package saying that whoever adopts must have the capability, should have the financial ability to spend money on this. And only those people would be considered.
But the counter-argument, sir, is that 5 crores is really not a big number at all. To generate 5 crore per year, all you need is 333 foreign tourists paying 500 rupees per visit for, what, 300 days every year, or 5,555 Indian tourists paying rupees 30 for about 300 days.
It's not a question of looking at the money and the numbers. Where were all these theoreticians for the past 70 years? Our monuments, surrounding the monuments are in a complete mess. I was in Agra day for us today. I've been to a whole lot of monuments. It's a complete mess. How many visitors come to Khajuraho, which I would consider to be one of the most important monuments in the whole world? It's absolutely, monumental. It's as good as anything else in the world or better than anything else in the world. Why is that I get 60,000 visitors only at Khajuraho? There is something dramatically wrong. The area is stinking, there are no facilities, there is no parking, there is no drinking water, there is no Wi-Fi. My list is endless. For 70 years, all these theoreticians who now come out with the calculations, what were they doing? Have they done anything?
Do you believe the government could have started off with smaller heritage sites before moving on to an iconic one such as the Red Fort, which is listed as a premium category monument?
See, we are in a hurry. India gets only 10 million tourists a year. This was the account last year, which was a dramatic increase from the previous year. We grew by 15.67% against a global growth of 5%, which is dramatic. But look at the other countries. Spain gets 85 million tourists. France gets 75 million. US gets 75 million people. We have 100 times better monuments and more valuable monuments than any of these countries. Why aren't people coming? So I'm in a great hurry because for me, tourism means employment. For me, tourism means huge income to the country. All these are the most important thing. I cannot actually go around doing pilot projects and then wait for 5 years. No, this government is in a huge hurry. We want to produce results. We want employment to be created. We want the whole world to come and see India. That is how the economy will move.
So can we specify the branding rules of engagement? That's been a strong objection, sir. How much branding will the corporate receive? In this case for Dalmia Bharat, what does it entail them for this 5 crore rupees?
Again, it's very clearly mentioned in the MOU that a signage of the size which would be approved by the ASI will be permitted. Now, see, the ASI is a very conservative organization. I'm sure it will be a few millimeter by a few millimeter board. Nothing more than that. Now, if somebody spends money, makes a huge effort, shouldn't they be allowed to have at least a few millimeter length and breadth board to be put up? And I'm sure all these talk about, it will be known as Dalmia Red Fort. I don't know why people spread such fake news.
Definitely a government which seems to be in a hurry. When we come back, we will talk more about the merits of this case. Stay with us.
Gabon is on the fast track to becoming the most favorable investment destination in Africa. The NCOC Special Economic Zone has opened its doors to international investors, providing major tax benefits like 0% tax on dividends, 0% tax on income for the first 10 years, 100% exemptions on corporate and capital gains tax, 100% foreign ownership, and more. Come, invest in the manufacturing sector in Gabon.
There are things we do, and there are things we do with passion. There is surfing, and there is surfing. There is camping, and there is camping. There is being creative, and there is being creative. There is driving, and there is driving a BMW X3.
The stage is set for another Congress-BJP face-off before the big finale in 2019. As political leaders face the litmus test, who holds the key to the future of India's Silicon Valley? Tune in as CNBC-TV18 travels across the length and breadth of Karnataka to decode the economic and political equations of the Karnataka Assembly elections. Election Exchange, Battle for Karnataka. Throughout this month on CNBC-TV18 and CNBC-TV18.com. Every morning on CNBC-TV18's Bazaar Morning Call, data gets transformed into expert insights that drive decision-making.
I don't watch business channels. If I do watch, I watch CNBC.
Any market moves because of liquidity.
The Asian screen is green.
The market has done remarkably well.
Stocks expected to be under pressure today.
The market is heading up.
For policymakers, CEOs and decision makers.
The first channel I put on is CNBC-TV18 because I want to know the business news.
From minute-by-minute analysis to expert inputs and global views, you get the news before it hits the trading floor. Bazaar Morning Call. At these times, only on CNBC-TV18.
Morning Call brought to you by IRB Infrastructure Developers Limited and V-Guard, India's #1 AC stabilizer.
From identifying the movers and shakers of the week to spotting new trends as they develop, we get you all the buzz in the commodity market and help you connect commodity to the company. Let the biggest champions guide your investments and find out on what to expect in the week ahead.
The Commodity Champions. At these times, only on CNBC-TV18.
Commodity Champions brought to you by Nakshatra Diamond Jewelry.
Class, speed, raw power, max torque. Get ready for an unmatched automotive experience. Servo presents Overdrive.
Overdrive, presented by Servo, world-class lubricants from Indian Oil.
Gabon is on the fast track to becoming the most favorable investment destination in Africa. The NCOC Special Economic Zone has opened its doors to international investors, providing major tax benefits like 0% tax on dividends, 0% tax on income for the first 10 years, 100% exemptions on corporate and capital gains tax, 100% foreign ownership, and more. Come, invest in the manufacturing sector in Gabon.
Today, the center of our debate is the Red Fort Upkeep Heritage Mitra program, which has gone to the Dalmia Bharat Group. We just heard the Minister of Tourism, Mr. Alphonse, who said, look, we are not going to wait
for tourists to come to India. Tourism has the potential to create employment and, of course, grow the economy. So why should we wait any more? We've done a good job of handing the upkeep, at least, part of Red Fort to a private corporation. Mohammed Khan, your reaction? This government wants action.
Well, I was listening very intently to what Mr. Alphonse was saying.
Why is your angst?
Well, anxiously, not with angst. I was listening anxiously because I was hopeful that he would explain the motivations that have flummoxed so many of us over the last 2 weeks. Unfortunately, Mr. Alphonse himself seems to be kept out of the high-powered committee meetings, which he himself said. He doesn't even know the number of people who bid. He isn't even clear on what the signage structure will be. A couple of millimeters by a couple of millimeters. I really hope someone from Dalmia Group is watching and know what they've gotten themselves into. I want to say something. Forget the Congress right now. There are people who do this for a living, like Mr. Suhail Hashmi. There are people who have dedicated their lives to the study of these monuments and their upkeep. The Indian History Congress is one of these organizations, and they have come out on Wednesday and issued a very strong statement against this deal. The thing is, Manisha, you have to have, and even Ms. Zakaria acknowledged this fact as one of the lacunae, that they haven't had the stakeholders who should have been at the forefront of this decision. They haven't. Also, you raised a very important point. 5 crores is the ostensible revenue that they suggest. But as Mr. Suhail Hashmi wrote, as per an RTI query, the revenue goes up from 6 to 7 crores year on year. So have you given it away for pennies on the dollar? This also needs to be investigated. By your logic, you don't even know who's bid and how many people have bid. Your financial bid criteria is weak at best. And also these people...
There is no financial bid criteria, but he also agreed that that is not the center to the point.
Because it's very important to make. Look, learn from the Congress. The Aga Khan Foundation project with the Humayun's Tomb gives them nothing. They pay for the restoration. They bring in experts from places like Harvard, Oxford and Cambridge. These are people who've done this for 30 years with unparalleled expertise. They get nothing out of it, including no millimeter signage. So, I would suggest you look at that model.
All right.
That's how it's done.
Tasneem, could this have been done without, the corporate asking for any branding per se? Maybe we wouldn't even be having this debate. If they were just doing it out of the CSR fund, then why any kind of mileage at all needed?
Well, no, firstly, this is not about conservation. They are not touching the monument. I think that we need to be very clear about. They are talking about amenities in the vicinity of the monument, and that's the big difference between what the Congress did and what the Aga Khan Foundation represents and the work they've done. What's important also is to know that the National Culture Fund, which the Congress had set up during its duration, it was in existence for about 20 years. It could not garner any support from corporates. Why? Because there was constant tinkering of the policy, there was constant manipulation, the monies weren't going to the right places. And so if you look at the history of the National Culture Fund, it was a total failure. So I think what Mr. Alphonse is trying to do here, he's trying to, as he said, he's in a hurry. He wants to clean up. And I'm completely with him that it needs urgent action, that we do need to clean up.
Let me get Mr. Hashmi's views as well. Mr. Hashmi, so there were 4 bidders. We know that, right? Now it's in public domain. Now, the website says relevant project experience in providing similar services. So if I were to look at Dalmia Bharat, ITC, GMR, and Indigo, Dalmia Bharat is perhaps the least when it comes to consumer-facing businesses and the service industry, while the other 3 seem to have more experience. And if financial bidding was not the criteria, I'm left to wonder why one over the others. This is the answer which we have not received.
You see, I'll not get into that because I have a different take on this. I did some calculations. In 2010, the people who visited the Red Fort, if they were paying the same tickets as are being charged today, the income from ticket sale would have been 16 crore rupees from the Red Fort alone.
Right, sir.
Now, you take 10 crores of that and spend it on all the amenities that you want to do, and you don't have to be obliged to any corporate.
Okay.
That is number 1. Number 2, the second issue is that there was a parliamentary subcommittee. And Derek O'Brien, who was the chairman of that committee, he has come out and said they had strong reservations on the presentation made by Culture Secretary.
Okay.
And they had not recommended this scheme. Now, these people are in a hurry, but there is some parliamentary procedure. There is a subcommittee of parliament
Which has itself raised concerns on how this process is being undertaken.
Finally, they have to finalize a report. The report has to be tabled. None of that has happened. And they have gone and begun hawking, you know.
Okay.
So, and that report strictly says, first set up pilot project, study it, see the impact, see how is it working or not before you hand it over to corporates.
And why not start with, I did ask this question, why not start with a smaller, you know, monument, then go with the biggest historic monument?
But you see, nobody is interested. These people are not interested in the major monuments. They are only interested in the major monuments because they are looking at the branding that they will get.
Which will be only in millimeters, sir. Now at least with this discussion...
The minister has said that, the MOU doesn't say that at all.
All right. Yeah. Gentlemen, we've completely run out of time. Tasneem Mehta, Sohail Hashmi and Mohammad Khan, thank you for joining me. Of course, not one site. I mean, it's so many sites which still have to bring in sponsors, which have to, you know, be done in the right way. I'm going to sign off with my take. There's absolutely no quibble on whether private sector should pitch in with the upkeep of our heritage and monuments. They should. But the process has to be far more open, transparent, with very specific and precise guidelines before we can declare a winner for one of India's most historic sites. That's it from me. Goodbye. Thanks so much for watching.
Gabon is on the fast track to becoming the most favorable investment destination in Africa. The NCOC Special Economic Zone has opened its doors to international investors, providing major tax benefits like 0% tax on dividends, 0% tax on income for the first 10 years, 100% exemptions on corporate and capital gains tax, 100% foreign ownership, and more. Come, invest in the manufacturing sector in Gabon.
I was on a train in Mongolia.
That's how we met.
May your life be full of stories. The plush new XUV 500.
Class. Speed. Raw power. Max torque. Get ready for an unmatched automotive experience. Servo presents Overdrive.
Overdrive, presented by Servo, world-class lubricants from Indian Oil.
I want to buy a 1 BHK flat by the end of this year, but I don't know if it's the right time.
Do I need a real estate agent or can I buy the property directly?
Do I need insurance for my new home? I mean, is it really required?
Under construction properties are much cheaper than the ready-to-move-in ones, but you never know about these possession delays. So what should I choose?
I want to build my first home in my village. How is a land loan different from a home loan?
Need help in buying your first home? We'll help you make the right choice.
Today, demand and supply is the only important parameter that is driving any micro market in terms of appreciation.
We will help you take the best bets with your property buys based on location and supply ratings for key markets across India.
Send your queries to home@nw18.com. First-time home buyer, your search for the perfect first home ends here. At these times. Only on CNBC-TV18.
First-time home buyer, powered by LIC Housing Finance Limited. Building homes, nurturing relationships.
This is TV18 and you're watching CNBC-TV18.
A crop loan waiver of up to 1 lakh rupees, 1.5 lakh crore rupees for irrigation projects. The BJP has finally released its manifesto for Karnataka a week ahead of elections, and agriculture has got the top billing. The party has also made a slew of promises to women, which include sanitary pads for ₹1, smartphones for women below the poverty line. Releasing the manifesto, BJP State Unit President and Chief Ministerial candidate B.S. Yediyurappa said that the document was based on the vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. He also added that the welfare of farmers was the BJP's priority and promised that the party will announce a crop loan waiver of up to 1 lakh rupees in its first cabinet meeting if it comes to power.
We will allot 1.5 lakh crore rupees for the completion of the Niravari Yojana. We will have farmer loan waivers up to 1 lakh rupees in cooperative societies.
ನೀರಾವರಿ ಯೋಜನೆ ಪೂರ್ಣ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ತೆಗೆದಿರುವಂತಹ ಐತಿಹಾಸಿಕ ತೀರ್ಮಾನವನ್ನು ನಾವು ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಶ್ರೀ ಸುವಿಧಾ ಯೋಜನೆಯಡಿ ಬಿಪಿಎಲ್ ಕುಟುಂಬದ ಮಹಿಳೆಯರ
Women below poverty line will be given sanitary napkins for ₹1.
ಉಳಿದ ಮಹಿಳೆಯರಿಗೆ ಒಂದಕ್ಕೆ ₹1 ಸ್ಯಾನಿಟರಿ ನ್ಯಾಪ್ಕಿನ್ ನೀಡಲಾಗುತ್ತೆ.
Karnataka, Rukmini Rao joins us now from Bengaluru. Rukmini, now both the BJP and the Congress have released their manifestos. How do the promises being made by both these parties compare? Take us through the key highlights from both the manifestos.
Well, we're just about a week away from polling, and we saw the Congress party release their manifesto last week, and of course BJP today released a competitive manifesto to take on the Congress in the state. If we are to look at a comparison of what the BJP and the Congress has to offer to the people of the state, for rural Karnataka, Congress of course went on to say that they would be looking at a massive outlay of close to 1.25 lakh crores on irrigation, and also look at building an agri corridor. BJP, on the other hand, has said that they will waive off farm loans of up to 1 lakh rupees, both taken from the PSU banks and also cooperative banks. And of course, BJP has said that their outlay for irrigation will be close to 1.5 lakh crores. To vote the women voters, of course, Congress said that they would provide free sanitary pads, and they would abolish tax on sanitary pads and hike widows' pension. BJP, on the other hand, has said that they will set up a 10,000 crore fund to create a large cooperative structure for women, and also provide sanitary napkins through PDF scheme for women of the BPL families, and at ₹1 for other women. Also looking at the IT sector, in fact, the Congress in fact announced increase of the IT revenues from the state from $60 billion to $300 billion in the next 5 years. However, BJP has said that they would be looking at developing Devanhalli, which is close to Bangalore, where the airport is, into an IT city. Also trying to woo the startup ecosystem in the state. Congress, of course, went on to say that they would provide close to 1 crore subsidy for startups, whereas the BJP wants to start an incubator called K-Hub with an outlay of close to 200 crores. Also taking on the infra, which has been a pain point really for the Congress government here. Of course, Congress went on to say that they will develop new airstrips and develop Mangalore Harbour, and also use the 8,000 crore mining fund for development. BJP, on the other hand, has gone on to say that they will develop something called Karnataka Mala, which is a 6-lane highway throughout the state, and also introduce metro in Hubli, Dharwad, and also upgrade several infrastructure projects in the state.
All right, Rukmini, appreciate you joining us. So that gives you a snapshot of how the two manifestos compare. The Congress put out its manifesto for Karnataka a week ago, and the BJP has done it today. Joining us now to discuss this further, Amit Malviya, spokesperson of the BJP, Aishwarya Mahadev, spokesperson for the Congress, and Harish Ramaswamy, political analyst. Amit, let me start by asking you, just in terms of the number of pages that your manifesto has, it's longer and more in number than the Congress. Yours in excess of 60 plus, and the Congress was, I think, 44 or something to that effect. But in terms of promises that you make to the people of Karnataka, pretty similar to what the Congress is offering. But that apart, a lot of the promises that you make depend on the support and perhaps the benevolence of the centre. Have you got assurances from the centre that they will support you when you make promises like operationalizing a special coastal economic zone, on being able to bring in more regional connectivity via the Udan scheme, or being able to get in more railway lines through the state of Karnataka? I mean, these are part of your promises that you make in your manifesto, which will require the centre's intervention as well.
Well, Shireen, I think it's very obvious that if we have a government in the center and we have a BJP-ruled government in the state, the synergies are going to be extremely high, and that is what our manifesto also reflects. But I just want to make one quick point. I don't agree with the fact that our manifesto reflects what the Congress is saying as well, because if you see, the thrust of our manifesto is on empowerment. Every scheme is about ensuring that the segments that we are speaking about over a period of time become self-dependent and they start contributing actively to the economy. For example, a fund for women, which is not a support. It is building an ecosystem in which they can grow on their own, and it's an economically viable model to have. Similarly, on the farmer side, there has been a lot of trust on how to improve agriculture, along with the waiver that we have talked about. So it's very, very different in spirit from the Congress. There is very little use of the word subsidies, which the Congress has used in...
I'll interrupt you there. I said very similar, because when you talk about empowerment, the Congress manifesto, if I take a look at the Congress manifesto, also talks about exactly the same things. They talk about setting up agricultural zones. They talk about creating agri corridors. They talk about setting up a fund, whether it is a 1 crore subsidy for startups, which includes a 25 lakh rupee loan, or it is interest-free or low interest rate loans to the MSME sector, to women, etc. So hence my point about the similarities between the promises that are being made by both parties, and you know there's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
You know, the fact is that the Congress manifesto suffers from so many infirmities. Let me just tell you for instance. They've said that they will make IT sector a $300 billion industry. Now, entire Karnataka's budget is 2 lakh crore, which is 1/10 of $300 billion. I don't know why they are talking about such outrageous number when they did precious little in the last 5 years. They talk about making biotechnology a $50 billion industry in Karnataka, where the overall India market is $11 billion. And if you compare it to the Karnataka overall state budget, it is just 1.6 times of it. So, you know, we have not made outrageous claims like the Congress has made. So I really request you not to draw parallels between us and them. We've really thought through it. They have just pulled something out of the hat and put it there, because probably the Congress believes nobody questions parties on manifestos. But we believe this is a promise that we made to the people, and it's just not another document.
All right, Aishwarya Mahadev, you've made outrageous claims, says Amit Malviya in your manifesto. The numbers that you've touted, from 30 billion, from 60 billion to 300 billion, that's the kind of revenue potential that you see for the Indian IT sector from the state of Karnataka. Amit Malviya saying that that's not doable. Similar picture for biotechnology. But outside of the outrageous claims, Aishwarya, let me start by asking you of what you have made of the manifesto.
Shireen, let me just clarify. You thought our manifesto was around 40-something pages. That's our concise version. This is our precise manifesto, where what we've done, we've given you what we promised. We said we'll give you a district-wise manifesto, and every single district in Karnataka has had a manifesto. The entire idea of the BJP manifesto is Namma Karnataka ke Namma Vachana, which means our word and our promise. They initially promised 224 manifestos for every assembly constituency, and have come out with this pitiable attempt at a manifesto where half of it is just rhetoric, where you're saying things like we will look to improve and whatnot. But at the end of it, if you look at their manifesto, first and foremost, it is a copy-paste manifesto, and second, trying to basically ride on the Modi wave. Almost more than half of all their manifesto promises depend on the benevolence of the central government and Narendra Modi. Also, the first big-ticket thing, which is the loan waiver, which we have already done without the help of the central government, is cruxed on the fact that Modi is going to help them do it if and when, or I don't think they ever will, but if and when they they come to power. But the bigger ticket that they're talking about is things like Annadasoha, which is the same as our Annabhagya scheme, Negila Yogi, which is the same as our Raita Beluku scheme, Mangala Bhagya is a copy of the same, the loan waiver is something you've taken from us, Laptop Yojana is all the same. Your entire manifesto, basically, I think that's why you had a delay, right? Because you saw a manifesto and decided you wanted to pull out things from it. Is a lot of it is a copy of us. But simply at the end of it, BJP should have done one simple thing. Try to fulfill the promises that remain unfulfilled from Yediyurappa's time, which honestly, when he did come in and speak about it, it did have some merit, or at least try and fulfill what Modi had promised. Because on both, you're not keeping your word on what you promised, so saying your Vachana budget is basically nothing but a falsehood.
But Harish, your assessment of what is being offered to the voter of Karnataka, is this old wine in a new bottle? Are these promises dressed up to